Timer. Wednesday afternoon and I'm walking down Madison Avenue toward Julian Farrell Restore Salon thinking about how most men have no understanding of the relationship between personal grooming and social dominance. They go to Supercuts or some neighborhood barbershop where immigrant barbers with questionable hygiene standards hack away at their hair with equipment that probably hasn't been properly sterilized since the Clinton administration. Then they wonder why they never get promoted or why attractive women treat them like invisible service workers instead of potential sexual partners. The salon occupies 3 floors of a converted townhouse between 67th and 68th Street where the monthly rent probably exceeds the annual income of everyone who cuts hair at Great Clicks combined. The exterior is understated in that way that screams, if you have to ask about prices, you can't afford to be here. No gaudy signage or promotional displays. Just a small brass plaque and frosted glass windows that prevent street-level peasants from observing the grooming rituals of their genetic superiors. I have an appointment with Alessandro at 2:30 p.m. He's been cutting my hair for 3 years now ever since I discovered him through a recommendation from Marcus Wellington's assistant who mentioned that Alessandro used to work exclusively for European royalty before relocating to New York to service the financial elite. His rate is $400 per session plus tip, which puts him in the same pricing category as high-end escorts but with better conversation and significantly less risk of sexually transmitted infections. The reception area looks like the lobby of a Swiss private bank crossed with a Japanese tea ceremony space. Minimalist furniture in natural materials that cost more than most people's cars. Fresh orchids arranged with mathematical precision. Classical music playing at exactly the right volume to suggest cultural sophistication without interfering with private conversations about quarterly earnings and offshore tax strategies. "Good afternoon, Mr. Vale," says the receptionist, a brunette with the kind of understated beauty that suggests good breeding and expensive dental work. Alessandro is running about 10 minutes behind schedule. "Can I offer you some champagne while you wait?" The champagne is Dom Perignon 2012, served in crystal flutes that probably cost more than most people spend on groceries in a month. I accept a glass because refusing would suggest either alcoholism or some kind of dietary restriction that might be interpreted as weakness by other clients who are undoubtedly analyzing every aspect of my behavior for signs of vulnerability or inadequacy. The waiting area contains exactly the demographic you'd expect from a salon that charges $400 for haircuts. Hedge fund managers getting their gray roots touched up before quarterly investor meetings. Real estate moguls having their eyebrows shaped by estheticians who charge more per hour than most lawyers. Tech entrepreneurs getting facial treatments that involve ingredients harvested from endangered species or extracted from the placentas of grass-fed cattle. I recognize at least 3 of them from industry events and charity galas where we nod at each other with the kind of superficial familiarity that passes for friendship among people who view every social interaction as a potential business opportunity or threat assessment. They're all reading the same publications: Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, Barron's. Information consumption as status performance rather than genuine interest in understanding market dynamics or economic trends. "Preston Vale," says a voice behind me, and I turn to see Jonathan Kessler from Goldman Sachs emerging from one of the treatment rooms with a fresh haircut that probably cost him more than his secretary makes in a week. "Didn't expect to see you here." Kessler is 43 years old and has been trying to poach me from Morgan Stanley for the past 18 months through increasingly transparent attempts at professional seduction. Dinner invitations to restaurants where the wine list starts at $300 per bottle. Tickets to private box seats at Yankees games where we can discuss mutual opportunities while pretending to watch overpaid athletes perform ritualized athletic combat for the entertainment of people who've never experienced actual physical challenge. "Jonathan," I say, standing to shake his hand with exactly the right amount of pressure to communicate confidence without suggesting overcompensation. "How's the family?" His wife left him 6 months ago after discovering his affair with a 26-year-old analyst who specializes in emerging market derivatives and gives blowjobs that apparently justify risking a divorce settlement that will cost him approximately half of his liquid assets. But we both pretend his personal life is stable because acknowledging marital problems would suggest emotional instability that might affect his professional judgment. "Everyone's great," he says. Sarah's been spending time in the Hamptons with the kids, getting some fresh air before school starts. Sarah is currently fucking her tennis instructor at the country club while spending Kessler's money on designer handbags and cosmetic procedures that won't prevent her from aging into irrelevance but might delay the process long enough for her to secure alimony payments that will fund her lifestyle until she dies of complications from excessive cosmetic surgery or liver failure caused by daily wine consumption that started as social drinking and evolved into medical dependency. That's wonderful, I tell him. Nothing like family time to maintain perspective on what really matters. What really matters is accumulating enough wealth and power to insulate yourself from the emotional and financial consequences of other people's bad decisions. Marriage is just a legal framework for asset sharing with someone whose interests may not align with your long-term strategic goals. Children are expensive accessories that require constant maintenance and provide minimal return on investment unless you view genetic legacy as some kind of meaningful achievement rather than just biological narcissism disguised as parental responsibility. Alessandro will see you now, Mr. Vale, says the receptionist, saving me from having to continue this performance of caring about Kessler's domestic situation. Alessandro's private studio occupies the entire third floor with windows overlooking Central Park where joggers and dog walkers perform their daily rituals of physical maintenance and social signaling. The space is designed like a high-end medical facility crossed with an art gallery. Chrome and glass surfaces that can be sterilized between clients. Professional lighting that reveals every imperfection while somehow making everyone look more attractive than they actually are. Alessandro himself is exactly what you'd expect from someone who charges $400 to cut hair. Italian, obviously. Mid-40s with the kind of casual elegance that comes from being born into a culture that values aesthetic perfection as a moral imperative rather than just personal vanity. His own hair is a masterpiece of controlled chaos that looks effortless but probably requires daily maintenance by other professionals in his field. Preston, he says, embracing me with the kind of European physical affection that would seem inappropriately intimate from an American service provider but somehow works when performed by someone whose cultural background includes centuries of aristocratic grooming traditions. You look fantastic. How was Mykonos? I haven't been to Mykonos in 2 years, but Alessandro remembers every detail of every conversation we've ever had because that's part of what I'm paying for. Not just hair-cutting services, but the illusion that someone whose opinion I value finds my lifestyle choices interesting and enviable. It's psychological massage disguised as professional grooming. Incredible, I tell him. The water was perfect this time of year. The truth is that I spent last weekend in my penthouse trading cryptocurrency futures and masturbating to Instagram stories posted by girls who will never know my name or acknowledge my existence. But Alessandro doesn't need to know about my actual activities any more than I need to know about his probably equally pathetic personal life involving whatever arrangements allow him to afford the kind of Manhattan apartment that someone in his profession would require to maintain credibility with clients like me. Let's see what we're working with today, he says, running his fingers through my hair with the clinical precision of a surgeon examining tissue for signs of disease or degeneration. My hair is genetically superior to 99% of the human population. Thick, naturally lustrous, with the kind of texture and growth patterns that respond optimally to professional styling techniques. No signs of male pattern baldness or premature grain that plague men with inferior genetic endowments. Even without professional maintenance, my hair looks better than most people's hair after they've spent hundreds of dollars on treatments and products designed to compensate for their biological inadequacies. Excellent condition as always, Alessandro says. Your diet and exercise regimen are clearly working. Most of my clients don't take care of themselves the way you do. Most of his clients are probably genetic disasters who rely on expensive grooming services to camouflage fundamental biological failures. Balding hedge fund managers who spend thousands of dollars on hair transplant procedures that make them look like Ken dolls with manufacturing defects. Real estate moguls whose facial features suggest centuries of inbreeding among European nobility that valued property ownership over genetic diversity. I believe in optimization, I tell him. Physical maintenance is just another form of asset management. Alessandro nods approvingly while sectioning my hair with the kind of mathematical precision that suggests genuine artistic talent rather than just technical competence learned from vocational training programs. His movements are economical and purposeful. No wasted motions or unnecessary flourishes designed to impress clients who mistake complexity for quality. How's business? I ask, because clients are expected to show interest in their service provider's professional lives even though we both understand that the relationship is entirely transactional and would cease to exist if I stopped paying him $400 to cut my hair. Very good, he says, beginning the actual cutting process with scissors that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. I've been working with some new clients from the tech sector. Cryptocurrency people. Very interesting group. Cryptocurrency people. He's probably referring to the nouveau riches who made fortunes buying digital assets when they were trading for pennies and now think that accidental wealth translates into sophisticated taste and social credentials. The kind of people who buy million-dollar apartments in Tribeca but still eat at chain restaurants because they lack the cultural education to understand why spending $300 on dinner represents value optimization rather than financial waste. I imagine they have different grooming needs than traditional finance clients, I say. Different aesthetic preferences, Alessandro agrees. More experimental. Less concerned with conforming to established standards of professional appearance. Translation: they want haircuts that make them look like they're disrupting industries instead of just following market trends identified by people with actual analytical capabilities. They probably request styles inspired by celebrities and influencers rather than understanding that true elegance requires subtlety and restraint rather than attention-seeking visual statements. The cutting process takes exactly 47 minutes, during which Alessandro provides a continuous stream of observations about hair texture, growth patterns, and optimal styling techniques that demonstrate his professional expertise while avoiding any topics that might require genuine personal disclosure or emotional investment. It's performance art disguised as conversation, designed to justify premium pricing through the illusion of personalized attention. There, he says finally, using a handheld mirror to show me the back of my head from multiple angles. What do you think? The haircut is perfect, as expected. Every hair precisely positioned to enhance my natural features and create the impression of effortless masculine perfection. The kind of grooming that communicates wealth and sophistication without appearing obviously artificial or high maintenance. Executive-level aesthetic optimization that will provide returns through enhanced social and professional interactions for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Excellent work, I tell him, because the haircut genuinely meets my standards and because providing positive feedback to service providers encourages continued performance at optimal levels. My pleasure, Alessandro says. Same time next month? Absolutely. The payment process involves the kind of discreet financial transaction that wealthy people prefer when purchasing luxury services. No cash registers or credit card terminals that might create awkward moments involving price discussions or tip calculations. Just a leather portfolio containing an invoice that itemizes services rendered without including any prices that might embarrass clients or service providers who participate in economic relationships that exist outside normal market parameters. $400 for the haircut. Plus tip, which requires careful calculation based on multiple factors including service quality, personal relationship dynamics, and social signaling considerations. Too little suggests either financial constraints or lack of appreciation for professional expertise. Too much implies desperation for approval or unfamiliarity with appropriate tipping protocols among people who can afford $400 haircuts. $100 is exactly 25%, which communicates appropriate appreciation without suggesting either cheapness or overcompensation. Alessandro accepts the payment with the kind of gracious professionalism that makes premium service providers worth their fees. No excessive gratitude or obsequious behavior that would make the transaction uncomfortable for either party. Thank you, Preston, he says. Enjoy the rest of your week. You too, Alessandro. I leave the salon feeling like an optimized version of myself. The haircut has enhanced my natural advantages and corrected minor imperfections that were invisible to most people but noticeable to anyone with sophisticated aesthetic sensibilities. It's the kind of improvement that generates compound returns through enhanced social interactions and professional opportunities that justify the financial investment many times over. Walking down Madison Avenue, I catch my reflection in store windows and notice how the haircut changes the geometry of my face and creates the impression of enhanced masculine authority. Other pedestrians unconsciously defer to me in ways they didn't before. Women make eye contact longer. Men move aside more readily. Physical appearance affects social dynamics in ways that most people refuse to acknowledge because recognizing the importance of genetic advantages would force them to confront their own biological inadequacies. The afternoon sun feels warmer on my perfectly groomed scalp. The city looks sharper and more manageable. Traffic flows around me like I'm operating according to different physical laws than everyone else. This is what $400 buys: temporary membership in the genetic aristocracy that rules the world through superior breeding and resource allocation rather than just accumulated wealth or professional achievement. By tomorrow, most people will have forgotten what I looked like before the haircut. But the psychological effects will persist for weeks through enhanced confidence and social credibility that translates into measurable advantages in every interaction with other human beings who instinctively recognize and respond to visual signals of genetic and economic superiority. This is why poor people stay poor and ugly people stay unsuccessful. They don't understand that appearance is destiny and that destiny can be optimized through strategic investment in professional services that enhance natural advantages while minimizing biological disadvantages. They think $400 is too much to spend on a haircut instead of understanding that $400 is a minimal investment in the kind of aesthetic optimization that generates returns measured in millions of dollars over a lifetime of enhanced social and professional interactions. The Cybertruck is parked exactly where I left it, unmarked by bird droppings or vandalism that might affect other vehicles in neighborhoods where people understand and respect private property rights. The interior still smells like new leather and advanced polymers rather than the cheap air fresheners and fast food odors that contaminate vehicles owned by people who view transportation as mere utility rather than extension of personal brand and social identity. As I drive back toward the office, I think about how the haircut will affect my appearance during tomorrow's client meetings and weekend social events where visual impressions determine professional and romantic opportunities that shape long-term life outcomes. The $400 I spent today will generate thousands of dollars in additional income through enhanced credibility and social positioning that compounds over time like properly managed investment portfolios. This is what separates successful people from everyone else. Understanding that every aspect of personal presentation requires optimization and that optimization requires financial investment in professional services that most people consider luxury expenses rather than necessary business costs. Alessandro didn't just cut my hair. He enhanced my genetic advantages and corrected minor aesthetic imperfections that were limiting my potential for social and economic dominance. The traffic light turns green and I accelerate toward whatever opportunities the rest of the week will provide for demonstrating the superior genetic and aesthetic qualities that make me more successful than people who think $400 haircuts are waste of money rather than strategic investments in continued excellence.